further ado, let's jump into this Eastern Conference preview. I did not mean to make any of those rhyme. So we're going to start off with the Southeast Division. So last year's standings, we have the Miami Heat, who are in first at 44 and 29, Orlando Magic in second, Hornets in third, Wizards in fourth, Hawks in fifth. Now, we know that the Miami Heat eventually ended up making the finals in the bubble. Their team chemistry looked second to none, other than maybe the Lakers, who ended up winning the finals. But Jimmy Butler came down there amidst all of the, the rumors and the backlash of him not being a great teammate. But when he came to Miami, he looked like probably one of the best teammates ever, and hyped up his guys like his rookies and even the vets on top of it. Hyped up the younger guys like Bam. He really seemed like he brought the team together. He seemed like he was a glue guy pretty much. So the team chemistry looked amazing. It still looks amazing now because they have a lot of the same guys returning. In the off season, they did draft Precious Ashua. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I butchered it. I probably did, but they drafted Precious. They signed Avery Bradley. They lost Crowder. They gave Bam the max extension. They signed Dragic to a 2-year extension. Olynyk picked up his option. And the last was Udonis Haslem is back again, which is awesome for the Miami Heat culture. Obviously, he's not really playing all that much. He probably... this re-signing probably won't mean that he's going to get more playing time, especially now that he's 40. But I think it's just great for the culture, great for the team chemistry, amazing for the bench, and for the younger guys to keep learning about, being in the league, all the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's just great for the culture all around. Really, with the Miami Heat, I see a lot of the same things still happening with this team. I think that, with the defensiveness of the team's identity, the offensive side is going to continue to get better, especially because in the playoffs we didn't really even get to see Dragic in the finals, and Dragic was one of their leading scorers in the playoffs before he got hurt. So there's a lot of this team's offense that we still get to see, and another year of growth for a guy like Tyler Hero, another year of growth for Bam. And they also grabbed Mo Harkless, who is another great defensive asset to have, another guy that can also hit the three. And you get another year of experience for Duncan Robinson on top of all of that, their number one shooter on the team. So there's a lot of things to like about the Miami Heat. Spoelstra, obviously a good coach on top of that, and they have been able to develop a lot of talent, so they'll be one to watch next season. So moving on to Orlando, who was second last year. They're still pretty much a middling team. They're still not that great of a team. I guess you can say they are a playoff contender. They're just barely scraping into playoffs a lot. But they're nowhere close to a true championship contender. They're nowhere close to one of the top teams in the East. And to me, after this offseason that they had, they're just going to continue to look the same as well. They did draft Cole Anthony. I thought that was a very good pick. Especially because they still don't exactly know what's going on with Markelle Fultz just yet. And they also signed Dwayne Bacon. Bacon, was a big-time scorer in the G League. I think he put up like 31 points per game in the G League when he was with the Charlotte Hornets G League affiliate. But we have yet to really see him take off, in the NBA. And I think that Orlando will present him at least an opportunity to do that, especially because they lost Augustine, Awundu, Frazier, and B.J. Johnson. With the departure of Awundu, I think that opens up a spot for Dwayne Bacon, and I think he'll have the chance to show what he's got to actually prove if he belongs in the league or not. I think that he at least is deserved. He's at least earned. We'll just go with earned. He's at least earned a rotational player position, a role player from the bench, I think. I think that's something he could definitely thrive in, and someone for with Orlando, they could definitely use his services, especially on offense. Cole Anthony, I think, will eventually become their starting point guard, to be honest with you, if he's not going to be already. Markelle Fultz, the growth of Fultz is going to be something that's very, very, very important for Orlando this season. So I think that's one of the biggest things to watch for this team coming up is, will Fultz take that next step? Will he get closer to what he was projected or expected to be? And if he can even get close to what was expected of him in the first place, that is a humongous win for Orlando, because they really didn't get rid of much to get him in the first place from Philly. And that gives you another starting guard along with Cole Anthony for the future. I mean, Fultz is still young. I think he's like 21. So you still have a lot of room with Fultz left. There's still a lot to go with him. Cole Anthony, also very young, very talented. And another thing is, I think this season we're going to really determine if Mo Bamba is a bust or not. He hasn't been great. They haven't been able to really put him as their starting, power forward or center as they probably hoped to do. And even as a backup, really not delivering efficient or either like effective minutes. That's going to be something I think that is going to be another storyline to kind of follow. And another thing is, can Jonathan Isaac stay healthy? He's looked good when he has stayed healthy. He did put up 11.9 points, 6.8 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.6 steals, and 2.3 blocks a game before he got hurt last season. He looked like a big part of this team and looked like he could be a very big contributor. But I think that's something that you're going to have to monitor the whole time, because at this point you can give him the injury-prone tag. I think that it's deservedly so of giving that to him with the amount of injury issues he has had. And not just that, but severe injuries. They're not just like minor ones. They're ones that are taking him out like the rest of the season. So that's going to be a thing to look for. And then the other thing is Aaron Gordon. So at one point, it looked like he was taking a step in his shooting. Then last season, he shoots 30% from three, and I think it was like 42 or 43% from the floor. Really didn't give you a whole lot in terms of he's really supposed to be one of your all-star players on this team other than Vucevic. And he's really not giving you the kind of production that you would want from that. So I think that that's a thing to look for. He honestly could be trade bait at some point, maybe later on in the season or next season. But, I mean, they did sign him to a decent bit of money, so I don't know if anyone would really be willing to take on that contract for what he produces. Then we move on to the Charlotte Hornets, who are on the rise. They had a very solid draft class. They drafted LaMelo Ball, Vernon Carey, Nick Richards, Grant Riller. Obviously, the biggest one of those being LaMelo Ball, but I think the next best guy that will probably give you some production is either Vernon Carey or Grant Riller. No disrespect to Nick Richards, by the way. They did a sign and trade for Gordon Hayward. They paid him $120 million over 4 years. Still don't know about all that. And they lost Dwayne Bacon, Willie Hernan-Gomez, Batum, Kobe Simmons, and Ray Spalding. In terms of the talent that they lost, it's not much talent that they lost. Really, not many of those guys were even playing. Batum was hurt a lot. They paid Batum a crap ton of money, but they finally got him out of there. I think they stretched his contract, which, when people do that, I'm not a huge fan of it. You still have teams paying guys that really weren't all that good when they were at the team for years and years and years to come, and sometimes it comes back to bite you. So I'm not really a fan of it, but it is what it is. Especially, I'm not really a fan of it after you do that and then sign a guy like Gordon Hayward to a $120 million contract. But, hey, it's Michael Jordan's team. You do what you want. I'll just sip that tea or that coffee in this case. So big things to look for. We want to see what LaMelo Ball's like. Is LaMelo Ball coming in as advertised? I mean, so far in the preseason, his distribution abilities have looked outstanding. I mean, it also looks like the way he shares the ball is infectious with the rest of the team, because it looked like the team was just moving the ball like really quickly, touch passes all over the place, finding the right guy, making the right pass, making the right play, and it looked like it's really rubbing off on the rest of the team. And if that's the case, that's going to be huge for Charlotte, in the long run, as well as just this season. The other thing is they already have some solid guys in place, and we need to see what kind of growth we're going to get out of them. We have Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, Malik Monk. Now, Graham definitely should have been Most Improved Player of the Year last year. We need to see what kind of next step he's going to make this year. Also, with Bridges and Monk, we need to see what kind of steps those two are making. Can Monk be, like the shooter and like the all-around wing that they wanted? Can Bridges be like a night in, night out, energy, defensive, throwdown, athletic slasher that they need more often than not? Right now, Gordon Hayward is technically the best player on the team. Is Gordon Hayward going to return to his Utah Jazz level of play? Because in the Celtics, yes, he took a back seat to guys like Tatum and Brown because he wanted, well, I don't know if he wanted to watch them grow, but the Celtics did. But ever since his injury, he just hasn't looked like the same player in general. So he did want an expanded role. Right now, it's up to him to actually do something with it. And again, he needs to stay healthy in the first place. And also, I just really want to see, will LaMelo Ball be able to make others better through the ball movement? Now, usually we talk about veterans making younger guys better, or veterans making, some of the role players better with their leadership and even their distribution skills and stuff like that. But I think LaMelo Ball has the potential to do that with players on this team, even as a rookie, because of how young some of these guys are on the team, but also because a lot of this team is not used to playing like a very highly distributive style of play. We've seen that the Hornets a lot play, especially when Kemba was there, a lot of ISO, a lot of things like that. So I'm curious to see if that will be contagious the whole season, not just in the preseason that we've seen so far. And now we move on to the Wizards, who moved on from John Wall, the face of the Wizards for such a long time, it feels like. He has finally moved. He is now on to Houston. And now we have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, which I think this duo, the dynamic between the two, I think will kind of go very similar to how it was with Wall and Beal. I mean, Westbrook still gets you like anywhere from like 8 to 10 to 11 assists per game. He gets you those triple doubles. He can essentially do everything John Wall can do, and that both of their 3-point shooting isn't the best. I think you can maybe say, I haven't looked at the percentages in a while, but you can maybe say Walls is a tiny bit better. But when you have a guy like Beal, you don't need to really. And I mean, they have other shooters on top of that. So I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to see. Will Westbrook be able to do with Washington what John Wall couldn't do? I mean, at this stage of the game, and they're I don't want to say they're old because they're not old, but like Westbrook's not, doing all of the crazy stuff he was doing before, like when he first was on Oklahoma City. So they drafted Danny Avdija and Cassius Winston, 2 solid draft picks. I think that those are guys that Avdija will probably crack the starting lineup at some point, whereas Winston will probably be a good bench prospect for them. I think he'll be a good backup to somebody like Russell Westbrook. They added Robin Lopez and Raul Neto in free agency. Neto will probably take over those backup point guard duties until maybe Cassius Winston, if they feel comfortable giving it to him. Robin Lopez is good to shore up the front court as well. After guys like Thomas Bryant and Rui Hachimura, I mean, you still need some depth there to have guys coming in. They lost Napier, Gary Payton II, Ian Mahimi, Uthoff, and Jerian Grant. That list of people that they lost, again, nothing really going on there for me to say like, oh, they lost a lot. And then when they lost Wall, they still gained Westbrook, which I think to me is kind of a even deal there, especially. I mean, it could even just be better for Washington because Wall hasn't even played in 2 seasons, and we don't know if Wall's going to make this entire season healthy. So that's also a thing to look out for. I think they're a potential 8th seed just due to Westbrook and Beal. We talk about the East not being very strong, but I think the East got stronger this season, especially because now with the Brooklyn Nets, who are 4th in their own division and barely made the playoffs, just returned Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. That shoots them up the standings, and the rest of the Eastern teams are still as strong as they were before. I mean, the Bucks arguably getting stronger. So there's a lot of teams now in the East that have gotten better. So I think that this kind of makes them around an 8th seed. And then we're moving on. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, we also want to see the growth of Rui Hachimura and the health of Bertans. Those 2 things will definitely be key. I think Rui Hachimura has shown that he definitely belongs in the league, but we need to see that next step now. And then Bertans, as long as he's healthy, they signed him to a good, longer contract, and he has to show that he's going to be like the, their number 1 perimeter threat. I mean, I guess outside of Beal. And then, finally, for this division, we move on to the Atlanta Hawks. They make a huge splash in the offseason. They probably have one of the best off seasons in the league, if not the best. And they drafted Onyeka Okongwu, a very nice inside threat, power forward center for them. Skylar Mays, a smaller scoring guard. And then through free agency and trades, they added Gallinari, they added Bogdan Bogdanovic, they added Rondo, Chris Dunn, Solomon Hill, and Tony Snell. The only guys that they ended up losing were Bembry, Teague, Travion Graham, Charlie Brown, Dedman, and Vince Carter. Again, the guys they are losing do not outweigh what they are bringing in. So big props to the Hawks on that one. All of these moves, I think, will shift the attention now to Trae Young, John Collins, and Coach Lloyd Pierce. Because now you have a lot of quality pieces on the team, along with your 2 young stars, and you need to make it work. I mean, I don't know if I expect them to make the playoffs right away. This team does look like it should make the playoffs in the East at least, but as I said, the East as a whole did get better. And so I think that these 3 guys, not exactly, I mean, the coach, Lloyd Pierce, might be on a hot seat, but Trae and Collins, I think that, the attention will shift to them because we now need to see, will they be able to lead this team? Will they be able to, be the cornerstone guys on a team that will make the playoffs finally? Because we have yet to see them actually sniff the playoffs. Now it's time to see, can you guys get over that hump, make the playoffs, and what kind of experience can you get there? What kind of noise can you make once you make the playoffs, and so on and so forth. So I think that will be an interesting storyline. And then finally, you get your first look at Clint Capella on this team as well, because I believe he was hurt last season once he was dealt to Atlanta, and we didn't really get to see him work much with Trae and the team. So that's another thing to watch for. I think that, them adding Clint Capella was a big move in and of itself, and we'll see what happens there. So the projected standings that I think is going to happen with the Southeast, I'm going Miami Heat in first, Wizards in second, Hawks in third, Magic in fourth, Hornets in fifth. Yes, I have the Magic dropping 2 spots. Last year Wizards only had Beal. Beal got hurt. They had a bunch of just, younger guys running around doing a lot of things, not doing very well. But now you add Westbrook. Beal comes back. I think that automatically shoots them up, especially in the division standings. Hawks added a bunch. I think that puts them up in the third. Magic still looking for a lot of stuff to do. They could even make a deal for Vucevic. We don't know. We'll have to see what exactly happens there. And then the Hornets, still young, still looking for, their identity right now, and they're still looking to improve, so have them down at fifth.